Relationship expert and matchmaker Jackie Dorman joins us in this episode. She is the founder of Last Year Single and the author of Modern Dating Sucks. So whether you're widowed, divorced, or still single, this could be your last year single. Your entire love life can change if you tune into this episode.
Well said, Kelly. As always, let's get to it. Welcome, ladies, to the Fit Over 50 podcast. Jackie, so nice to finally get you on our show. We had a couple of false starts here. Very grateful to finally hook up with you. We got a great show today. Hey, Kelly, how are you?
I'm so good. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hey,
Awesome.
I'm so glad that I get to be fit over 50. Is that a fourth telling? I am 50, so I want to be fit and over 50. Awesome.
You look amazing. Yeah, our audience basically wants to optimize all areas of their life at 50 and beyond. Basically everything you wish you had known, wanted to know, it's not too late to know. Our audience is hungry for, especially around relationships.
Love it. Excited.
Let's share a little bit about your background. Kelly, why don't you give a little bit of an insight into Jackie, and then let's dig right into this. I think everybody's going to get a lot out of this show today.
Absolutely. We have a fabulous guest, Jackie Dorman. She is a relationship expert. She is a dating coach. She is a best-selling author and a sought-after speaker. She is in high demand, and I love this. She is the founder of Last Year Single. What a great name. And it's been a global movement that has helped over 1,600 people and counting get married in the last 5 or so years. And she's the creator of a transformational heart work process that we're very excited to learn about. Jackie lives in Austin, Texas with her husband of 18 years. So she's got a lot of wisdom and real world practical things to pull from. And they have a beautiful blended family with 3 adult children and 2 grandbabies. Jackie, welcome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, so fun fact, you married the boy next door. How did that come about? And tell us how that love story happened.
Yeah, literally. I mean, he wasn't just a boy next door, like the clean-cut all-American boy. He actually lived next door to me, and he wasn't quite a boy. He was about 36 years old, and I was 32, and he moved in next door to me. And the first day that I met him, I yelled at him. So it was a really great, the kids all out there, they want the meet cute. They want the love story and the rom-com kind of backstory, but it wasn't very cute. I actually had gotten an email that week telling me that a sex offender had moved into my neighborhood, and he was moving in. And I just assumed that he was the sex offender that was moving into the neighborhood. And I had a 5-year-old daughter at the time. It was definitely a comedy of errors. And so I thought that, it had to be him, because I didn't understand they meant like the greater area, not my area. And I had all of my protective mother bear antenna up. I was a single mom of a 5-year-old, had gone through a divorce. And so I hadn't done my heart work yet. Right? So that's where the heart work comes from, because I needed to do my heart work. So I ripped his head off. I was like, hey, bro, I know who you are. And I just want to let you know that my daughter's not allowed to play with your daughter, because he had a 9-year-old daughter. And he was like, what? Wait, what? What's happened? All I did was move into the neighborhood. And another neighbor saw our exchange, and she was my friend who lived on the other side of me for the couple years I had lived there. And she took me aside and said, hey, what's wrong with you? What's your problem? And I told her about the email, and she's like, that's not the guy. She said, I met him a couple days ago. I know all about him. He's like a teacher. He's an American hero, is basically what she had to say about him. And so I apologized, and we became friends, and then we became more, and then we became married in 8 months. From the day that I yelled at him to the day we got married was 8 months later.
So the secret is you got to yell at guys, ladies, because we all like that stuff. We love to get yelled at. Okay, so
9 times out of 10, that's not going to work out. For sure. So yeah, we have a unique meeting, but we definitely had a lot in common. We began to support each other through that transitional season that we were both in as single parents. And 18 years later, we have adult children that have married well, and we have 2 twin grandbabies. And I think that we can say we've been really successful in family and marriage. So super excited to have that testimony out there.
Yeah, that gives us hope. That inspires us. So you talked about the heart work that you had not yet done. Can you break that down for us? What does that look like? And I'm on like the edge of my seat.
Well, inner healing has become a thing. It's become a buzzword. Everyone has a therapist now. There's social media therapy, there's TikTok therapy, because you can just find out all this stuff about yourself, attachment style and love languages and all different types of things. But back then, 18 plus years ago, therapy wasn't a thing necessarily yet, especially as Christians. And so, you just kind of had to take one step to Jesus. You weren't allowed to take any steps any other place. And that is how I spent most of my adult life since I was about 22 years old. And he had spent his life that way as well. So it's like, hey, if you're not going to like have this divine transformation, then you're just going to get stuck like this for the rest of your life. And I realized through some divine revelation that I had a lot of good information up here, but for some reason it wasn't taking root down here and it wasn't causing any kind of change in my life. So it wasn't making that 18-inch journey from my psychology to actually my heart, where the quality of my life was coming out of, right? My belief systems, my experiences, good, bad, or ugly. And so this process actually takes into account not that you're the sum total of all your experiences, but the things that happen to us do affect who we are. And they actually create counterfeit versions of us. So it's about unpacking that stuff and being able to see not only what has happened, but what lies do we believe because of what happened. So it's really accessing your programming, if you would prefer that word, because we all have programming. And the way you can figure out whether you have faulty programming is take a look at your life. Is your life the way that you'd want it to be? Do you have any areas of your life where things are really messed up, where you would call it a problem area? Well, problem areas are rooted in these lies or these boxes that are full of unresolved stuff.
Ooh, there's a lot of good stuff in there. Wow. So can you give us some of those? I know you've got a program, the Heart Work program, maybe a couple of the highlights of what that process looks like.
We do. We have a program called Last Year Single, specifically for singles, and it includes Heart Work protocol. And then we have the Heart Workshop, which is just for everybody else. And so basically what you're going to do is, I call it the revealing for healing. A lot of times you'll go into some sort of program that kind of hands you a shovel and wants you to start digging, start digging out all the stuff. And a lot of people have things right on top that they know happened 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, or happened at work, or happened in a relationship that became a situationship and then they had to break up and move on. So we know about those traumas. But the traumas that these life-controlling problems are usually attached to are much deeper, and a lot of times not the big ones. Not the, your parents divorced when you were 5 years old. Okay, you might have some residual stuff from that, but chances are you already know about that one and you've already unpacked some of that stuff. These are things that you don't really know bothered you as much as they did. And so we have to allow there to be a process called revealing for healing. And when people give permission to themselves to do this work, that stuff starts coming from the unconscious to the conscious, so that we can start dealing with it. And then we have tools to deal with it. What are we going to do? Are we going to forgive people that are attached to this? Are we going to request forgiveness ourselves? Maybe not from those people. Maybe they're not even alive anymore, but from ourselves for the things that we knew that we did that were unworthy of us. Possibly from God. People of faith are going to ask, the universe, or whatever that higher perspective is that they're aligned with, for there to be a forgiveness sequence, for there to be a releasing of the guilt and the shame that we're carrying because of that stuff. Whether it was done to us or we did it, there has to be a releasing. And so we do that type of work with folks.
Yeah, I want to jump in here. So in preparing for this, I did some research in good old Chat GPT. Listen to these statistics, and I'm sure, Jackie, you're familiar with this. 29% of adults between 50 and 64, obviously this is for our audience, are single, not married, not in a relationship. Single men, 43% of single men, I want to know why, I say they're still looking for love, 50 plus. Single women, 50 plus, only 27% say they're looking for love. The number one pressure that keeps women from wanting to go on dates, according to a 2021 study, and obviously there could be studies on both sides of this thing, said pressure and expectations around sex make dating unappealing for women there. So is it guys still believe in love and women don't? Or I thought that was the statistic that blew me away.
I mean, a lot of people don't believe in marriage anymore, I'll tell you that. So I didn't think that marriage was such a trigger word until I got on TikTok and I started making videos about getting married and about, what you needed to look for in a lifelong partner. And you would think that I was on there saying that, we need to kick puppies or we need to, it was so, people were so triggered, like marriage, like what rock did you crawl out from under? Like, what are you talking about? We don't want to get married. And people were talking about how marriage was no longer an equitable equation. Like it wasn't worth it, especially for men. Men were specifically saying that marriage is a lose-lose for them. Because, she's going to get bored or she's going to get tired or you're not going to be able to please her and you're going to be living in hell on earth and then she's going to steal all your money. So that was basically the gist of a lot of the things that men were saying. And then women were saying, they don't want to grow up. They're not mature. They're not masculine. They're not marriage minded. By the way, those are the 3 M's of my last year single program: mature, masculine, marriage minded. They're not any of those things. And you just said it yourself in that statistic. Only 27% of single women over 50 think that it's worth even looking into anymore. That's, and there's a lot of single people. In fact, the millennials, and I think the oldest millennials are now 43. So they're going to be your constituents soon. They're going to be your audience soon, right? The women are heading into perimenopause. And so they're going to, their give a damn's going to be busted really quickly here. And they're 43. They might have a little bit of starry eyes still about love stories, but I will tell you this, they are the most single generation in history. Since the census began in 1860, they are the most single generation. So right now they would be 29 to 43 years old. They are 59% single, and they're supposed to be 70% single when it's all said and done.
Wow.
Wow, that's mind-boggling. So you said the 3 M's. The first one was maturity. I heard that one. The second one was masculine energy?
Masculine, divinely masculine. Masculine,
so,
yeah.
Can you define what that means? I know feminine energy, masculine energy, and I get all that, but can you just elaborate on that?
Well, first I want to say this. I know your audience is probably primarily women, but I am not, I love men. I'm not a man basher. I have a whole program for men as well. It's not as populated as my women's program because men don't necessarily sign up to do the work as fast as women do. But the men that do the work they're phenomenal. And so we love guys around here. But I will tell you that there is something that has shifted where a lot of single men are in what I call their soft girl era. They're not showing up. They're not intentional. They don't want to make decisions. They want someone else to do the heavy lifting of relationship. And that is not what women are used to. Women want to be pursued, right? There's the word. So they want to feel like, this man is into me, not necessarily chasing me because I'm running away, but also being intentional. I'm super important. He's making space in his time for me, in his wallet for me. This is how he's wooing me. But men have gotten to a place where no, I'm not doing that. What's the payoff? What's in it for me? What have you done for me lately? And so they're more in their little soft girl era where they want to be treated and they don't really want to be in committed relationships because they're too hard and they want to do soft things. And so we're seeing a lot of that out here. And I don't know what happened. Is it because we haven't had any wars recently? Is it because everyone started working from home and everyone got lazy in their social, aspects of their lives? Because I will tell you, people are still quarantined on the inside, even if they're not on the outside. Just because we're not stuck in our houses, something happened in 2020 that was not good. And people have not gotten back into actually pursuing relationship and community. And that's another big problem.
I think guys today, I don't know about after 50. I think our generation, for the most part, grew up without technology. So you had to have a hustle. You had to have a game. You had to be able to talk. You had to be able to, look people in the eyes. But I think the younger generation today, correct me if I'm wrong for sure, this is just my observation. they don't know what the hell to do. They're, they don't want to act too masculine because, that's not good. If they have their feminine side, then they fall into the friend group. I just think guys don't know what their identity is at this point.
I think you're 100% right. I don't think that they do. I think that culture is saying one thing, and then women's empowerment movements is saying another thing, and they don't know how to show up. And a lot of them didn't have good role models of how to show up either. And so we're the most fatherless generation that has ever been alive on the earth as well. And so we have a lot of, men that didn't grow up with a dad either that was in the home or was present. So he may have been in the home, but maybe not present because, like you said, they were out hustling and doing other things. And so, out there, I think the men of our generation were told the lie that if you're providing for your family, that is the best thing that you can do for them. A roof over their head, money in the bank, but they were leaving their families emotionally bankrupt, right? They were providing a lifestyle, but they weren't necessarily providing their presence, which is what most people needed.
Financial security and emotional security. If they're not given emotional security, they're missing out on that for sure. And that's not the easiest thing for guys. It's not easy for me. I grew up in a very emotionally unavailable environment growing up, and my dad was not the best role model for sure. So.
Yeah. And you used to be when I was a kid, there was no one divorced in my class except for my parents. So we used to kind of be the anomalies, but now it's the norm. Now it's you can't, throw a rock without hitting someone who, had trauma in childhood, felt, like their parents were emotionally unavailable, or, parents are divorced or never got married at all. It's kind of getting more and more normal now.
Yeah, and I think the women are also wrestling with their spirit of unworthiness and sort of passiveness, but they don't want to push the men too hard, but they're not calling the men up to be who they can be. So women are sort of doing this dance also where they've got their own struggles that they're trying to figure out. What would you say to the women who are maybe not feeling worthy or not sure how to come into that?
Well, I think that a lot of men, especially for women over 50, we're dealing with men that more have a dismissive, avoidant attachment style. Yeah, there's the occasional love bomber of an anxious attacher, but for a lot of men, they've been single for a long time, or they were married and now they were married for a long time, now they're divorced. Okay, if we're over 50 and they're like, I don't even know if I really want to do this again. And so they're maybe pleasing a little bit more and not really vocalizing their needs because they don't want to chase him away because he's already kind of on the line. And so we have that going on. And then we have the boss babes out there who think they don't need a man. They kind of want a man, but they don't think they need a man. And so they're not showing up in their feminine. And so they're not really attracting the men that they could be attracting because they act like they have it all together and they don't need anyone. And so we have those two things. And that's a spectrum, of course. I feel like a lot more women are over here on the spectrum of over 50 of, they want to be with someone, but they don't want to scare them off. I do have boss babes that show up in my program, but for the most part, women that have been super independent that really don't want to be independent anymore, but they're not attracting men that would want to make a commitment. And so we really have to unpack why that is. Because I believe that what you believe about yourself, you become, and what you become, you attract. And so we need to really unpack that attraction because it's more about us than it is about them.
So what do you feel are the biggest limiting beliefs that you run into people that have been through the mill and divorced and going back into the dating game here? Some people, I know a lot of people don't like to use dating apps. That's not a limiting belief, but underneath it, there's a limiting belief. What are the main ones you've run into?
Well, the problem with dating apps is that that's actually where all the dismissive, avoidant people are. Because think about it. They're either not in a relationship because, once again, they're avoidant of commitment, or they just got out of a relationship. So they're in between relationships because they are not able to commit. So they're the ones that always end up back on these apps because the secure attachers are in relationship. And even the anxious attachers, because they're super loyal people usually, are in relationship. And so what we have on dating apps is just cycle, lather, rinse, repeat of the same people. And so what I see as far as the biggest lies that singles are believing, both men and women, is that it's not worth at this age. So for this audience, over 50, it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. my life is good enough as it is. It's just not worth it to put this time and energy in. It's exhausting, right? It's not worth it. There's all the good ones are taken. They're gone. Like toilet paper during COVID. There's nothing left on this shelf. It's all gone. Someone else got here before me. And this is why a lot of people are with married people at this age too, because they really do believe the lie that all the good people are taken. And so if all the good people are taken and I want to be with someone, then I need to be with someone who's taken. Right? And so we have a lot of people that, believe it or not, are dating married people or in relationships and entanglements, situationships with married people at work. They're the work wife or husband. You saw at Coldplay concert, right? There's a lot more of that than people think there is at this age, in this age bracket. Another lie that I think people believe is if this was going to happen for me, it would have happened when I was young. Like if I was going to meet my soulmate, it would have happened when I was young, when I was able to really enjoy it. Like, what's the point kind of now, right? And the other biggest lie I think that people believe is that if it is the right relationship, it's going to be perfect. It's going to be the perfect timing. We're going to get along. We're going to be so compatible from day one. They're not going to have any issues. I'm not going to have any issues. And what people need to understand is that everybody has yellow flags. And what turns yellow flags red is when people are not self-aware and they're not willing to work on their stuff. We're always going to be working on stuff, right? And then what turns flags green is when people are self-aware and they're willing to be honest and transparent, authentic, and willing to work on their stuff, because you're not going to meet someone who doesn't have stuff to work on. It's just whether or not you want to sign up to work on it together. It's really important that people know that it's not the harbinger is not that they did something wrong or they misstepped on the first, second date or in the first 3 months. That's not the harbinger of things to come. It means they're a human being. And so we have to show up to these potential relationships with grace.
Wow. So you're reading my mail quite a bit.
Sorry there.
I would never date a married man or get into a situationship, but remind me, what's great about the relationship. I was 25 years married, and it was long suffering. It was very, very difficult. I needed to be the man in the relationship, and it nearly killed me. So now 7 years single, and my life is pretty great, and it seems like a struggle to get back into a relationship. Not to actually necessarily find someone, although that would be a challenge, but my life's pretty great. Remind me, what's great about a good relationship?
Well, when your life is great and you really love your life, a lot of times you want someone to share it with, right? And it's about partnership, especially at this age when we're probably not going to be having babies anymore. It's about partnership. It's kind of about West Coast swing. We're not looking for anyone to waltz us around the room and lead us. We're looking for someone who wants to partner with what we've built, and we want to partner with what they've built. And so I hear what you're saying about your first marriage, and so many people have that, unfortunately, that testimony. There's nothing worse than feeling like you're constantly trying to keep your boat from sinking and bailing water while someone else is drilling holes in the bottom of the boat. That is like the hardest thing to live through. When you really want to succeed with this person, you really want it to succeed, and you're working it like a job, and you're doing everything that you can, and they're sabotaging every step of the way. Okay? And so, of course, you don't want to sign up for that. But the thing you need to remember is that you're not that 25-year-old girl. You're not the person that got into that relationship, and you probably got into that relationship because of unhealed heart boxes. And as long as you're doing your heart work, your dating pool is going to be very different. The people that you're attracting and the things that you would do together are going to be different. And so you're not going to really know what that looks like unless you give it a shot.
You're right. Totally reading my mail. Jackie, you need to hypnotize Kelly. So I think that would be something. She's chomping at the bit, I could tell you that. But she does have an amazing life, from vacation to vacation to girls retreat to business retreat. I can't keep up with her, Jackie.
That means that she's actually primed to get married for a partnership, because the people that I do get concerned about are the people that show up and their lives are torn up from the floor up, and they are looking for the magic bullet of happiness in another person. They're looking for someone to save them. No one's coming to save you, baby. All right? That's right here. And so Kelly's already done that. She already pulled her own self up by her bootstraps, and so she's ready to partner. The other ladies that come in that are looking for a man to ride in on the white horse, they're the ones that are going to get disillusioned and end up with Prince Alarming instead of Prince Charming. And so I really have to work on them. She actually is a lot closer to healthy partnership than she realizes.
You hear that, Kelly?
I do. It's
You see
exciting.
the smile, Jackie, you put on her face? Boy, if you are not watching this on YouTube, you are missing one big old smile on Kelly for sure. So excellent. Excellent. So you also have a book called Married in 12 Months or Less.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Now,
Just
I
have
could
it.
have used I could have used a different version of this book, Jackie. It could have been called Divorced in 12 Months or Less. 'Cause my darn divorce took six years to get divorced here. So
I'm so
so
sorry. Yes, I have so many people that got stuck in like the longest divorce proceedings ever. But I will tell you, there are two types of marriages that happen: the toxic ones that happen in 12 months, and then the divinely orchestrated ones. And so we want that other kind. And really, honestly, this is a bait and switch. Because the tagline is reclaim your love life, heal your heart, and unlock the secret to finding your spirit mate. And the secret has everything to do with you, not anybody else.
I love the titles named though. I love Last Year Single, Married in 12 Months or Less. Those just are so visual, and they just paint a picture, and they resonate with an emotion. So fantastic names to both of those.
Yeah. And another great name is you use spirit mate instead of soul mate. Can you distinguish that for us?
People stop at just the physical chemistry, and I don't just mean sexual chemistry. I mean the sense of humor, the hobbies in common. So many people stop there, and they don't really ever go deeper, where there is a true feeling of kismet, where there's a true feeling of like we're meant to be together, not as in the one, because that math doesn't math, but as in we're going to come together and we're going to change the world somehow together. We're going to do something important with this marriage, with this life, besides just enjoy each other's bodies and enjoy each other's hobbies. And, we're going to go one step further into something that is, life and world changing.
How do I word this? How concerned are people with marrying at our age group and saying, I don't want to get into a long-term thing where I got to take care of somebody else and their failing health? I got to believe that's something that is in the back of a lot of people's minds for sure.
Yeah, it really is. And one thing that we're definitely seeing, maybe not for 50 and over, but one thing we're seeing is that the May-December romance is really not a thing anymore. Maybe for the ultra rich and famous it is, but for regular people, the May-December romance where men are marrying women that are 25 years younger than them, women aren't willing to do that. They don't want to be caretakers. So unless you're super rich or famous, that's really not a thing. But over 50, I think most of my men and women, not just the women, they really care about, does this person, are they biohacking? Are they in the gym? Do they care about their health? Are they taking care of themselves? I think that people do look to that, and that's one of the number one non-negotiables where that didn't used to be true maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, I was just thinking about your beautiful blended family. That is certainly a challenge for our age group when you've got your own, whether teens or 20s at this age, and now they've got their teens or 20s. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons for the second divorce is trying to blend that family. So any tips you could share about that?
So we've had 1,600 plus success stories in the last 4.5 years. Okay, so that's a lot. But one of my success stories that I did coaching with after they got married, because we do premarital coaching as well. We want to help people have everything they need, and then we stay with people after they get married. We have a group for married folk as well. And they, when they came together, they ended up with 7 teenage girls in the house.
Wow.
7. One of them had 5 and one of them had 2. And so this is very much a thing. I actually have a book that I've been working on for the last decade called Why Blended Rhymes with Offended. And so it's all about blended family, and it's all about what you need to do in those first couple years, because that's important. Regardless of how old the kids are, the first couple years is going to lay the foundation of what's going to happen as you go further. And the first couple years are going to be probably difficult in one way or another. regardless of whether the kids are adults, it doesn't matter. We have in-laws, we have outlaws, we have all the stuff. And it's really important that people understand that you're not just marrying this person, you're marrying their entire community, who they're attached to as far as their family and their children. And also, Kelly, you need to know that a lot of people out there, you might marry them and they're estranged from their kids. Their kids have no contact with them. They're not talking to them because of parental alienation, because of divorce, and all different types of things. And so you're also marrying into that, where someone has a lot of shame, or they are just, depressed over the fact that they do have kids, but their kids aren't talking to them. And so we dig into all of that stuff when we're helping people prepare for a blended family.
Wow. Parental alienation is definitely a thing. Mark and I have both experienced some of that in our journeys.
Currently.
Yeah. And
It sucks.
any words of wisdom on how to reconnect or navigate that?
Well, with kids, I do think, especially if some of what they believe about you is true, then obviously, repentance is important. Asking for forgiveness is important to your children. And then if the things are just lies or they're made up for the purpose of alienation, then you just have to believe that one day or another they're going to come to the understanding that that they have judged you in error. And the way that we do that is by being consistent. If your kid's not talking to you, you continue to send them letters. You continue to send them presents, even if they return them. You continue to be consistent. Once again, if you need to ask for forgiveness to them, to your former spouse, then you need to do that. If you are the villain of the story, then you need to own that. But at the same time, it's also important to just be consistent and, prayerfully, they will come around to giving you another chance someday. I have never seen it not happen. When there's grace and there's consistency and there's the appropriate amount of, asking for forgiveness, the kids usually do come around.
I kind of think that once they have families of their own, they're kind of see it from a different shift or perspective. So what's your thoughts on that, Jackie?
For sure. I think that that's some of the season that kids start to see, hey, this isn't as easy as I thought it was. Maybe I judged too harshly. Definitely, for sure. Or they just want that grandparent in their children's lives. So that is, hopefully it's not going to take that long, but at the same time, it might. You got to play the long game. Got to play the long game with parental alienation.
Always played a long game. That's why my divorce took 6 years. So, but doing this with my daughters too. So you said 7 teenage daughters, you said, or something like that?
that specific family.
That's not the problem. The question is how many bathrooms were in the house. That's the major question there. So if there wasn't 7 bathrooms,
I don't think enough.
Y'all got a problem for sure on that one.
For sure.
So when you say reaching out to the estranged children, is that an email? Is that what is it, just an invitation like, hey, I'd love to have you for dinner, or hey, I heard you got a promotion. Would you like to celebrate, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, if they've asked for no contact, then you have to be careful because you want to respect their boundaries, but you want to send the message that the door is always open on your side. And so if they've asked for no contact from you, now if they're receiving your messages and responding, then continue to send them, continue to be consistent, not with demands, not with, I don't understand why you're treating me like this. I'm your parent. I love you. I've done so much for you. That's always the wrong thing to say. And so you want to make sure that you are not in any way, shape, or form putting demands or ultimatums, that you are just showing up in grace, that you're telling them that you love them, that you're contacting them as long as they haven't told you not to on birthdays and holidays. And, if they got a promotion at work, congratulating them. But if they've asked for no content, then you really have to put that, in God's hands. I'm a person of faith, so I would put that in God's hands. Continue to pray for them, continue to hold space for them, and believe that, they're going to want to contact you eventually. But in that last piece of contact, before they say, don't contact me anymore, you need to make sure that you let them know that the door is always, always open.
As always, Kelly, this show is more about Kelly and I solving our message than our listeners and viewers here. So we do appreciate that, Jackie, for sure.
Yes, I've had to live it. It's hard.
It's not fun. It's not fun. But if life was all fun, there'd be no challenges. There'd be no personal growth for sure. So
yeah, and then it's
true. Wisdom.
For sure. And at some point, on the parent side of that, the child sometimes isn't safe for you. Like they've been so abusive towards you that if and when you get the opportunity to be around them, the like you want to be fun and celebrate and be in there and just pretend like nothing happened. But at the same point, you're guarding your own heart because you're like, I don't know which child is going to show up, like the child that pretends nothing is wrong or the child that's critical or so
No,
there's
for
that
sure.
too.
For sure. You have to have good boundaries. And one of the things that everyone should be doing is learning what that looks like. People don't understand how to have good boundaries. And boundaries are more about identity than anything else. Who I am, who I'm not, what I'm willing to put up with, what I'm not willing to put up with. It's not about putting an ultimatum on someone else's behavior. It's about letting them know what you will do, and then they can make the decision about what they're going to do as well. And so if you have a child like that that's showing up abusive towards you, then you let them know, hey, I understand that you're still hurting from things, but I just want to let you know that, we've already talked about this, or if you haven't talked about it, you can offer, hey, we can go to counseling together. Would you like to do that? Would you like to go talk to someone together? Look, I'm willing to do what I need to do to meet you where you are, but when you come here, you won't be able to talk to me like this. You have to put, if you come here to my house, you won't be able to talk to me like this. If you want me to answer your phone calls, then you won't be able to be verbally abusive in this way. Like, what does it look like in order for us to be in relationship without whatever you're dealing with to continue to cause more turmoil and drama here, right?
Yeah, that is a very, very good boundary. Love that.
Yeah,
And
and you
what's
have to stick to it, because a lot of people, even with their puppies, like I just got a puppy, and it's easier to be permissive than it is to be consistent. It's easier to just let them do it, just let them. I'm too tired, just let them chew the thing, or just let them. Oh well, I'll just clean up the mess. No, stop cleaning up people's messes, whether that's a potential person like that you're in relationship with or a grown child. We got to stop cleaning up people's messes. We have to let them know, here's where the line is, and I love you, but this is how I show you that I love you, because boundaries are about relationship connection, not disconnection. And so without these, we can't actually have healthy connection.
Yeah, the connection is so important. And I've read some of the research on just how detrimental it is for the child who chooses to disconnect from a parent. Like they're hurting themselves so much, even if the child was abusive. And that was not the case with me, but it's just so hurtful. I mean, biologically, you just want to be connected to your parents. I mean, I've seen terribly abusive cases, even when parents wind up in jail, that the kids still, they want to be with them. So they're hurting themselves by cutting them off in a lot of cases.
No, it's true. It's true. We definitely want our parents, for sure.
How do we get the group of 50 and above, our audience, to get rid of these beliefs they got going, get on the wagon, or off? Was it off or on the wagon? Which one would it be? So find somebody new, start dating, start getting fulfilled, read the red flags, navigate, and get married in 12 months or less. What's our plan, ladies?
Well, if they are marriage minded, then that looks like something. A lot of people will show up and say, hey, I heard about you. And, they're kind of wishy-washy. They're like, I just thought I would check it out. It's like, okay, well, are you marriage minded? Do you want to get married in the future? Maybe not in 12 months, but do you want to get married in the future? Oh, I don't know. Well, first of all, you got to decide, what do you want? Everyone has to decide that, whether it's about a career, whether it's about getting a puppy like me. Like I thought about that for 2 years, whether it's about, having a relationship or getting married. You have to decide, what do you want? What's the end game? And then let's come back from that place and start walking it out. Let's walk out from the place that we want to be and walk towards what we need to do to get there. And a lot of people, they don't understand that you're going to have to change your entire life. Your schedule is going to change. You have to make room in your life for a relationship. Relationships take a lot of bandwidth. Do you have capacity? And the people that show up and say, oh, I wanted a relationship yesterday. And then I look at their schedule. I'm like, well, where in your schedule does it tell me that you want a relationship yesterday? Because you have no capacity for a relationship. You have filled up every waking moment of your life with something. Well, but I'll make room when I meet them. No, you won't. You're not going to make room when you meet them. You need to make room now. You need to make space and then invite that space to be filled. That is how we have a divine invitation. You have to make the space first, and that is the invitation for it to be filled.
So number one, we got to reverse engineer this thing. You got to find out. I'm talking in guy talk here. Sorry. Okay.
That's fine. What do you want?
Well, you got to figure out what you want.
Right.
And number two, what's number two?
Number two is once you decide what you want, you need to walk backwards from like, how am I going to get it? Reverse engineer, like you said. And so one of the things that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to take a look at our daily lives, our schedules, our bandwidth, right? Our situationships. A lot of people say that they want someone who will commit and will be serious about them, but they're messing around with all the Peter Pans, all the people who are never going to grow up. They're a Toys R Us kid, and they are not ever going to commit. But they're fun. Oh, they're fun. And we know that. And so we're going to have to clear the roster. We're going to have to clear the bench, baby.
I'm missing. What's a Peter Pan? I got to know.
Peter Pan is a guy, and it could be a woman as well, but they're usually men, that don't want commitment. They just want to have fun. They want companionship. They want a woman in their life. They just don't want her to depend on them in any way, shape, or form. Right?
Okay. Got it.
And I believe this. This is what I believe. And so I want to tell the people that are out there just dating, okay, you're giving people trauma, because in my opinion, dating is a vehicle towards committed relationship. That's what it is. And so dating is for mating in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. In your 20s, you might be still figuring stuff out. But in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, dating is for mating, and girlfriends and boyfriends are for high school. And so it should be progressing somewhere if you're dating. It shouldn't just be, hey, we're just hanging out. We're just seeing where this goes. Well, you should already know where it's going, because remember, you already know what you want in the end. So you already should know where it's going. Otherwise, what are you doing?
I have friends who are very intentional. They know what they want. They want to be married, but it seems soul sucking, the whole dating process. Like they're swiping and they're going on all these first dates, and 48 dates later, they
shouldn't do anything that doesn't bring them joy in their single season. If the dating apps are exhausting, then get out there in person, get out there in public. Utilize one of the things that's really been successful. And I know you guys didn't talk about my new book, but it's not out yet, so it's not for sale. But Modern Dating Sucks is my new book that's coming out.
I love that title.
In September. Yeah, it's a matchmaker's guide to finding love in a swipe left world. So this is going to help all the people that their souls are sucked dry by the dating apps. But what we need to understand is that the dating apps work for us when we understand how to work them. So they are tools. 70% of singles are still meeting their matches on technology of some sort. But one of the things that we do in our community last year single is we utilize the 6 degrees of separation, or the 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. That's what we utilize. I believe in community-based matchmaking. Somebody knows somebody who knows your spirit mate. And so why would you not leverage your community, your contacts, in order to meet good people, because good people know good people. And so this is a lost art. We used to do this in the olden days, the 80s, and we don't do it now. We used to do it in the 80s, and most of your clients, most of your audience, they were people who were teenagers in the 80s or 90s. Right? If they're in their 50s, they were teenagers in the 80s or 90s. And so they should know better. They know that they met at the mall. They know that they met through friends at school, at clubs. They know that they met, not clubs like dance clubs, but clubs like ski clubs.
Yeah.
So the statistics on what we call arranged marriages are pretty high from what I've read. Is that correct? Does that still stand? Because then I'll tell you my personal story.
I mean, I will tell you that the cultures that still use arranged marriages, yes, those people are still together, but I think probably for fear of social ostracization, how do you say the word? So I don't know if those numbers are good. Are those people happy? I have no idea, but I do know this. I know that when you get fixed up on a blind date by someone that really knows you and trust them, that a lot of times that goes good. When friends say, oh, hey, you should meet my friend, a lot of times that's really a good thing. But the cultures that actually make you marry someone that you've never even met, yes, they do stay married, but maybe because they'll get, kicked out of the village. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but so I met my, do you remember Hunka Bunka, Kelly, in New Jersey?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a club.
So, Jackie, we had this club in New Jersey called Hunka Bunka, and it's exactly the way it sounds. Just, it's just big hair, big 80s hair and everything. So I met my ex there, and I was so broke I couldn't buy her drink. So every time it came to buy a drink, I'd run to the bathroom. Funny story. So later on, I found out that we weren't both from the same town, but I found out later that her parents went to the same high school as my parents. And as a matter of fact, her dad dated my mom in high school. Okay. But her dad was a player. So, it was this weird kind of thing. And I never felt that, oh my God, we're in crazy love, but it just worked. And I think it worked because we had so many common values in place that made this darn thing work. And we had a great marriage for over 20 plus years. I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better. Great neighbors, vacations, kids hanging out with other kids. Phenomenal until it didn't get good. And once it goes bad, it's very difficult to change it. But I always felt like it was like almost like an arranged marriage because it was like meant to be because we had so many common mindset and beliefs from both growing up in the same area. So.
Yeah, no, I feel like those things that are so familiar, right? A lot of times, you'll meet someone in a situation like this from your area, from your hometown, and you need to really discern whether or not, they feel like home because that you just don't like change. Or a lot of times for people, you need to ask them, what does home feel like? They feel like home, but was home a good thing? And then for other people where it was good and good until it wasn't, the thing that we need to ask ourselves is what roosters came home to roost? Because one thing that this audience that watches your podcast needs to understand is that after the change of life, and men go through it as well, not just women, but after the change of life starts happening, anything that we've been repressing or pushing down for a long time, it starts to come back in really life-altering ways. There are more people that get divorced in this season that your audience is going through than any other season because they've been maybe dealing with something, not expressing their needs or having their needs met for a long period of time. Maybe something that happened when they were younger, they never dealt with, and now, it's coming up, it's being triggered. Like I just talked to a guy that got divorced suddenly. Like he thought he had a great marriage, and then all of a sudden his wife just thought he was the villain. She thought that he was, a terrible person, even started accusing him of being abusive, which, he had never been abusive, and it just was so confusing to him. And when he sat down to talk to me, the very first question I asked him was, okay, because they're in this age range that we're talking about. I said, before she flipped the switch and became this other person, I said, was there any kind of trauma that happened? And he said, oh yeah, this happened right before this happened. There was an accident. This thing happened right before this happened. I said, well, there you go. And in every single case where this is happening, there's always something. There's a precursor to this flipping the switch. And now this person doesn't have the self-control. They don't really have the emotional bandwidth to deal with it because of all the hormonal changes in their body, all the things that they haven't dealt with for a long period of time. And so it becomes very overwhelming. And a lot of times that person kind of fragments. And so that's what happens a lot of times when we see these sudden divorces where it was a really good marriage until it wasn't. And it's like, why wasn't it? And a lot of times it's all these factors coming into this perfect storm.
That's good. And I love how you talk about, Mark, you mentioned like we had so many things in common. And so there's the compatibility of, hey, we're both Italian. We're both from New York. We both like the beach. We both go to the gym. But what about the chemistry? Like that is really important to me. If you're going to wake up next to someone, you're married to for the rest of your life, for me, I don't want to fake it. Like there's got to be chemistry. And some people tell me, oh, that comes in time, that grows on you. But I don't know if I believe that.
Well, I think that chemistry, as far as physical chemistry, what you're talking about, of like really being attracted to the person, it is more than physical. It's, emotional, and it's mental, and it's the sense of humor. It's all the things rolled up in one. I think that it is important, and that's like the soulmate. That's the soulmate level of relationship. And it can be on the bus, but it shouldn't be driving the bus. A lot of people let that, what you're talking about, their desires in that area, they let it drive the bus right off a cliff. And it's like, okay, that's great, but do they have these other things? Do you have faith in common? Do you have life goals in common? How are they going to treat your children and your grandchildren if you already have them? Are they going to be a good, bonus mom or even mentor if the kids are complete adults? Are they going to try to like monopolize you from your family, or are they going to let your family still have you, in their lives to the degree that they need them? Are they, how are they with money? The things that end marriages are not, I know people are like, well, we didn't sleep with each other for the last 2 years of our marriage, but sex wasn't what ended that marriage. The reason that they didn't sleep together had nothing to do with sexual attraction. It had to do with all the other stuff that I'm talking about. That stuff plays out into whether or not I trust you enough to trust you with my body and with my desire for you.
That's good. What's something that women should stop doing when it comes to dating?
Well, they need to step out of being being in their masculine, first of all. So if you want a guy, if you really do want a man that is going to show up in his masculine, and that is marriage minded and is going to want to pursue you for a commitment, then you need to, show up in your feminine, which means show up not self-defended. You got to take the walls down. I know that it's scary because you're like, well, that's how I defend myself. Well, you need to be God defended, not self-defended. You need to really believe that there's a bigger process happening here. Because a man who's not able to find your femininity or your gentleness is not going to want to, wife you. That's not going to happen. And so, especially at this age, because they've already been there, done that. They were already married to Attila the Hun. They don't need that again. They're not going to do that. And so being able to show up in our gentleness, being able to show up and allow a man to contribute, to partner, to help you. I know that you're, self-sufficient, but hyper-independence is a trauma response. I have seen women literally on airplanes. I'm 5'10", and they're about 5 feet tall, if they are, trying to put their big old carry-on up overhead. And, men will jump up to try to help them. Oh, no. I've got it. Okay, honey. You've got it, but you don't got it. You don't got it. And so it's just little things like that of being able to be partnered, to be able to allow men to show up to help you. Don't plan the dates. Now, I'm not talking about being toxically passive and being like, well, it's all on him. But what you need to do is you need to reciprocate. Whatever level he's showing up at, you show up there too. A lot of times women will either show up here and then they'll start dominating the man and, leading him and guiding him. And then you're going to end up with a passive man that you have to lead and guide, just like your first marriage, that you have to do all the heavy lifting. If you do that in the courtship, you're going to have that in the marriage. Or they are the opposite. They expect to be sitting around like little passenger princesses who just don't even know where to go. And the man's just going to do all that stuff. We need to show up in the middle. Okay, where we are able to be in our feminine, we're able to be helped, we're able to, learn something, and allow ourselves to be gentle, but at the same time, we are reciprocating and showing him that we want him as well.
That's good. So much good advice in there. I've had a few friends who wanted to get married, who, went on 40, 50, 60 dates, found the man and got married pretty quickly. And then they wind up really getting to know each other over those first couple of years of marriages. And is there a amount of time that you would say, give yourself at least, a season of this, and this to go through before you make that commitment?
I think you should be together for a year. That's why it's called Married in 12 Months or Less. I think you should be together for a year, not just have met each other. David and I were a little shorter than that. We were 8 months, but we were next door neighbors. So we did life together. We did life together every single day after we met. And so we knew what that was like. In the last month or so, maybe a little less than a month, my lease was up. So I moved into their house. My daughter and I did. So I got to see their daily routine as well. And, one thing I want to say to people, regardless of whether it's your belief or not, regardless of whether you're a person of faith or not, sex is going to muddy the water. It is going to mask all the red flags. You are not going to know whether or not this person is healthy or good for you because you are going to be chemically attached in ways. You are going to dismiss certain types of behavior because of the infatuation or the physicality that's happening. And then a lot of people, if they think that, oh, I really shouldn't have done that, then they're going to try to make it right. A lot of people will try to make a sexual relationship right by then getting married. And that's the last thing that you should do. And so I really tell all my clients, whether they're people of faith that believe that sex is for marriage or not, that sex should be reserved for a covenant relationship, for a committed, long-term. Some people are not actually getting married anymore. They're making covenant promises kind of thing. So whatever it is, this is a committed situation that's public, that people know that you guys are together and that you guys are partners and you're married. I would save it for that. But if you're going to have a short courtship, dating time, Kelly, then have a longer engagement. If you're going to have a long engagement, you already know that, then maybe you can have a shorter. Regardless of how you do the math, you should be together, doing life together, not long distance, for a year.
Yeah, I agree with all of that 100%. That's great.
Especially, honestly, I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but especially at this age, people at this age need to take more time to get to know each other than young people. People that get married.
You see the exact opposite taking place. It's like, oh my God, I'm old. The clock's running out. Let's just, just do it. So
for sure. But these people our age have a lot more moving pieces, a lot more life, a lot more, stuff, responsibilities. They have a lot more baggage. They have a lot more heart work to do than someone who's really young. People, when they get married when they're young, even if they get married fast, if they're committed, if they're resolute, they're just in it to win it. They'll figure it out. Like you did when you married your wife. You guys got married young, you figured it out, right? You grow up together. And people our age, we're kind of fully formed. And so change for us is harder. And so you really want to make sure this person is not putting their best foot forward. In fact, I have a saying that just says that if the effort stops after they get you, it wasn't love, it was bait. And so you want to make sure that this person is committed. The number one thing, because I know you were going to ask me this, the number one thing that you need to have in a marriage-minded relationship is that each person is personally committed to growth. They have a personal commitment to personal growth. Both people, not just one of them. And you need to see that played out during that courtship. Them trying, not for you, but for themselves. Like they are committed to grow and to change and to continue to evolve to become the best version of themselves. And then you can come together and help each other do that.
And another big area to sort through in this season of life is finances. And I don't know what your thoughts are on prenuptial agreements, whether she has more, he has more, who's got investments, their ideas about money. I mean, it's another big reason for first divorce is finances. Any suggestions on how to handle that?
I get asked about prenups actually a lot. It's kind of interesting, right? This is my personal opinion about prenups, is that if you don't trust this person with your money, and that's the least of what you have. I mean, you're going to trust them with, you're the value, you're the asset. So if you're not going to trust them with your assets, how are you going to trust them with yourself? Because this is the least amount of what you have. But I will say there's one caveat to that. If you have money that's set aside for children and grandchildren, then you put that in a trust. Put that in a trust and let the person that you're seriously dating, that you're like in a marriage-minded relationship with know, hey, when we start talking about finances, I want to let you know that I have this over here and that's in a trust for my children and grandchildren. Like if something should happen to me during our marriage, that's not going to go to you, it's going to go to them. And you go ahead and do that before you get married. You put it in the trust, you put it in your children and grandchildren's name as the beneficiaries. You use it during your life, if you need to still. And, if something happens to you, it goes to them.
That's a great plan. That's exactly how I'm set up. It's all in the trust.
But I will tell you this, if you, at our age, everyone has bad seasons of life. When I met my husband, he was almost 40 years old. He had gone through a career change. He had a bankruptcy from his divorce and a lot of stuff. So on paper, he didn't look good. So just because, they're going through a hard season doesn't mean they're not the right person. You can meet the right person in a hard season and that's okay. But if they have a history, especially at our age, so we were younger, we were in our 30s, but at our age, in our 50s and beyond, if they have a history of not being good with money, if they have a history of, debt, if they have a history of irresponsibility, they're probably not going to change. And so when it comes around to finding out about, what they have done in their life, like consistently, it's a chronic issue, you're probably going to want to go ahead and let that one go by.
Yeah, the for better or for worse, richer or for poorer, sickness and in health, till death do us part. I mean, that's a real commitment. So you can marry someone with money and it could be gone in a moment. You could marry someone who's, Mr. Fit and they have a high spinal cord injury a day later. I mean, that's all real.
Absolutely. But if you marry someone who has a history of, not taking care of themselves, then, you knew before you married them.
Yeah.
It's one thing if, bad things happen to good people, but it's another thing if this person's, just basically living out the natural consequences of their decisions. And now you are living out those natural consequences with them.
Yes.
Is the situation where you have one has children, the other one does not have children? Let's say they've been divorced and they're 55, no children. Do you find there's a red flag with the one with no children dealing with the other partner, or not a big deal? Or
Not for our age group. And the
Yeah.
reason why is because we were on the cusp of the women's empowerment movements. And so a lot of people our age went after careers instead of family. And so then they show up and realize, well, I went after these things, but the education, the career, these things, but I really did want to be married and have a family. And maybe biologically it's too late for me, but they still could marry someone with children, right? They could still end up in family of some sort, even if they're not the biological mom. And so I think it's great. I think that the most important thing you need to ask that person who's never had children and they're in their 50s is that, especially if you have minor children that are at home still that you're raising, is if, they think that they can do this and that they're ready to become an instant parent when they haven't had children for 5 decades.
Well said. How do I say this? Do you feel our age group has blinders on, or are they more open? Are we the horse going down the street, not paying attention to everything? Because, who would want me? I'm baggage, I'm this, I'm that. Do you feel like we're not paying attention to the red flags, or do you we're paying attention more in our age group?
I think most people by the time that they're our age are not really that naive anymore. I think that we've been there, done that, right? Have been to the rodeos, have the t-shirts. So I think that what I see more often in this age group is hardness, hard hearts. They're waiting for someone to come along and prove to them that, that they're worthy of a relationship. So I think that I see that more often than anything else. Why should I, like Kelly said, I like my life. Why should I let you in? Prove it to me. I did a stitch with some girl. I think she was doing a comedy sketch, but she was talking about, if you ever see me with a man, it's because they have overcome my 10,000 attempts, to break up with them. Like they've somehow continued to persevere, through my 10,000 attempts to try to get rid of them. And that sounds funny and it sounds cute, but the problem is that that's too many people. And honestly, and she said, they're survival of the fittest. That's what she said. And I said, well, it sounds more like survival of the foolish. Because if a man is willing to climb that many walls, he's probably really unhealthy. Doesn't know his own worth and his own value, and that's not someone that you want to be in a relationship with. But just because he goes through your obstacle course and gets to the end does not make him the winner, does not make him a winner. And so that actually would be more concerning to me if a man was willing to stay with a woman who was actually sabotaging the relationship at that level.
Well, I would be concerned that the woman does that and there is no end because there's some kind of unresolved trauma and she has a hyper need for you to prove love to her all the time, that you're never going to get a break ultimately. So from a man's perspective, that would be a red flag for me.
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah. People pleasing. There's so much in here to unpack. So let's say you have that person sitting at home, man or woman, who they're sort of isolating and, maybe they've tried a few things, therapy, apps, prayer, and nothing has worked. What would you say to them?
I say love your life. I'd say continue to build a life that is worthy of partnership. Continue to build a life that someone's going to want to, people need to know that people are going to join the love story that's already in progress. Your love story doesn't start when you meet another person. You have a love story that's already in progress. This is your one and only life, and you should love it. And then someone else should want to join it because, it's so great. And so work on yourself. Stop believing and stop trying to find someone so that your life can begin. If that's your mindset, then we need to do some hard work because your life has already begun 5 decades ago. And so we need to make sure that you are loving life and that you're not fixated on whatever's not ripe right now. If this is not ripe in your life, there might be some things you need to do different in order to be successful, and we can help you to discern if that's what it is. But then for some people, for whatever reason, there's just other things that you're working on right now, and it's just not the right season for this. And it's important for you to understand those seasons and focus on what's right in front of you so that you can step into the season when it shows up. Being ready when love shows up is more important than going out and looking for it.
Whew, that's good. Jackie, you're such a pro. You just know your stuff cold. I took a page of notes in between. I'm going to re-listen to this podcast for sure. So, Mark, do you have another question?
No, I was just going to comment and add to that as the saying goes, no one's going to make you happy. You got to be happy in the first. And I'm not a big fan of happiness, or I don't mean sadness. It's a temporary emotion. I'm more into focusing on fulfillment in life versus temporary emotions like happiness. But if you're not content with and loving yourself, you're not going to attract anybody else to love you either. Ultimately, you're going to attract the exact opposite of that. And if you're happy, you're going to attract somebody that's going to make you happier, not happy, in my opinion. So,
absolutely.
Kelly, you were going to say something?
Yeah, so I was just going to say, Jack, any final words that you want to, sort of look into the camera and say to our audience to encourage them, inspire them, give them hope?
Well, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you guys as far as 50. And for those of you that are watching that are married and not single, we have to continue to work on our relationship. They're not going to get better just accidentally. We have to continue to sow into those relationships with our time and with, our talents and with all the different great things that we have. But for those of you that are single, I just want to let you know that love doesn't have an expiration date. It doesn't. And if you do want to partner, I believe that there's a partner out there for you. I do. And so let's do our hard work and let's get ready, because when love shows up, oftentimes it shows up suddenly when you're least expecting it. I know people say that, and it's not a cliche. I've actually seen it happen time and time and time again. And so get ready for it, and it will come.
Wow, Jackie, this was so incredibly powerful. And I know you have so many great resources, and this is probably going to come out in time with your new book. So tell us all the things, all the places. How can people get in touch with you?
So Modern Dating Sucks is going to go into pre-sale on 9/9, which happens to be my husband's birthday. And so you'll be able to get that at JackieDorman.com.
My daughter's birthday too, sorry.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah. It's such a good number. I love it.
She's 9999, so yeah. But I'm sorry,
Stop.
I didn't mean to Jackie. Yeah. Well,
That's
she was induced that
great.
day, so that was my ex wanting that day. So, but it was a pretty cool day. So
$9,999. JackieDorman.com is where you're going to find everything, including the pre-sale of the book that starts 9/9. My events page, we have all kinds of opportunities for people to meet up in person. We have a 5-year anniversary party, singles event in Austin coming up in October. We have retreats. I'm going to do a Disney retreat with a bunch of ladies not couple weeks from now. We have a singles cruise. We have a singles cruise in January of next year. You can find all that information at JackieDorman.com. And then you can find me on my socials at Jackie Dorman Official on Instagram. I post all kinds of success stories. You can see someone that looks just like you. It's not just a bunch of young people. In fact, I'd say about 40% of my success stories are over 45. And so the oldest was 81 and the youngest was 22. And so show up there if you need a dose of hope or humor, and I'd love to see you there.
We appreciate both the hope and the humor. People need more of both of those. So everyone, do not miss out on Jackie's signature program, Last Year Single, and her. You have the Modern Love Story Challenge that you do. I've tuned into that before.
Yeah, I don't think that this will come out before my next one. My next one is next week, but I do have one usually once a month. And once again, JackieDorman.com, you can find out everything.
Awesome. Jackie, thank you so much. This was amazing, so powerful. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Jackie, you definitely talk to talk, walk to walk, and my head is spinning from just listening to you for the last hour here. So inspiring. Thank you for what you do for people. It really is an amazing, amazing talent that you have. For those of you listening or watching, man, go check her out. Go grab her books. Get to her courses. You literally could change your life by just investing in yourself. You owe it to yourself. We got one life to live. That is a wrap, ladies. Thank you all very much for being on here. For those of you that tuned in, hopefully you got something out of this that you can apply to your life and live a healthier, happier lifestyle. In the meantime, we will see you all in the next episode. Bye-bye now.